acquisition of words, word meaning, grammar, and ASL. Some scholars believe that children's vocabulary growth shows a gradual linear increase, later followed by an exponential one. At 12 to 16 months, children learn approximately 2 words per week, and that begins to gradually go up. However, the biggest increase occurs at the age range of 8 to 10 years. During this time period, the words learned per day jump up from about 6.5 to just over 12 words per day. As a result, this means that elementary school is the time at which children are learning the largest number of new words. Lexical acquisition plays a key role in how children learn the meanings of words. It is defined as a critical stage of language development during which human infants learn a set of word forms and their association with meaning. There are 2 basic assumptions that seem to inform a child's lexical acquisition. First, they learn that a word refers to an entire object, and second, if the child already knows the word for that object, the new word directed at said object is assumed to refer to a part of it. For example, if an adult points at a cat and says, "cat," the child is automatically going to assume that what the adult is referring to is, in fact, a cat. However, if the child already knows that what the adult is pointing to is called a cat, and the adult says, "tail," the child is going to assume that what the adult is referring to is a part of the cat called the tail and not the cat itself. Some interesting facts about the acquisition of words is that the average 12-month-old knows between 50 to 200 words, and the average 18-year-old knows about 60,000 words, acquired through reading and writing. Also, English-speaking children learn more nouns than verbs, adjectives, or adverbs at the early stages of language acquisition. American Sign Language, or ASL, began in the late 1700s and was further developed in 1817 when Thomas Hopkins Claudette, an American, and Laurent Clerc, a Frenchman, opened up a school for the deaf. ASL is not related to spoken English, as it has its own grammar and lexicon. Through the collaboration of these 2 men, ASL was developed from a combination of French Sign Language and what was already being used here in America at the time. ASL has diverged from French Sign Language, though they still share some characteristics such as vocabulary items and grammatical structures. Every sign in ASL is distinguished by 3 characteristics: the configuration and orientation of the hand, i.e. palm up or down, the position of the hand in the signing space, such as between the head and waist and just past the shoulders on each side, and the specific movement of that hand. Word order is dictated by grammar rules specific to statements, questions, expressing negation, tense, and modality. For instance, to imply negation, the sign for not can be placed before the verb or at the end of the sentence. All negative sentences are also accompanied by a headshake and furrowed eyebrows. Many words have tense indicators to give meaning to something that happened recently, in the distant past, or tomorrow. Signed English is similar in the sense that signs are used for communicating, but is very different from ASL in that Signed English uses mostly spoken English grammar rules and has a sign for every spoken word. In ASL, many words are eliminated, such as some verbs which are used in Signed English. Many words are fingerspelled in Signed English, and some of those have been borrowed into ASL. Some people can cross over and use a combination of both of these unique languages. Something very curious seems to happen to all children as they begin to talk. They all know more about the language than they could reasonably have learned if they had to depend entirely on the input that they were exposed to. In summary, this is what linguists call the poverty of stimulus theory, which is the idea that grammar is unlearnable given the linguistic data available to children. It is therefore reasonable to conclude that grammar cannot be learned but is rather an innate knowledge of the possibilities and impossibilities for any human language. This means that children acquire language through trying out linguistic options that are available to them, but never entertain options that extend beyond the boundary conditions imposed by these language parameters that linguists have come to call universal grammar. The evidence for universal grammar is mostly taken from children at critical periods of language development. Rearranging structures of a sentence is not just a matter of recognizing phrases and then moving them around, but of moving the right element in the right phrase. If every structure had a rule, our language system would be too complicated and could not be adopted by adults, let alone kids. What children need to learn, for example, is that mom went out and bought a lollipop, and not mom went out and buyed a lollipop. No other suffix will ever be attached to represent the past tense. A language is not, then, a system of rules, but rather a set of specifications for parameters in the invariant system of principles, which is universal grammar. Teaching children English grammar can be a daunting task for two main reasons. First, there are so many nuances of the language for children to learn, and second, learning all these rules can be kind of boring. However, teaching English grammar can be done in an engaging way. Children will internally develop many grammar rules on their own through the exposure to the language. Also, kids will learn by opportunities to edit others' work. Often, when students look at their own writing, they miss grammatical errors because, as the writer, they know what they intended to say. Those same children, however, will often identify similar mistakes in others' writing. In summary, kids learn grammar by taking chances and making mistakes. They slowly learn new rules and apply them in their writing and language as they get older.